A bite-sized chronological history of the most essential Stephen King adaptations. Written by Grace Smith. The 1970s. Carrie, 1976. As with King's writing career, it all starts with Carrie. In 1976, just 2 years after the book was released, Brian De Palma would craft the first King adaptation with one of Carrie, his story of a religiously repressed year-old girl who comes to realize latent psychic powers after she begins her first period. Starring Sissy Spacek and Piper Laurie, this story features the stark images of psychokinesis, trauma, and the turmoil of coming of age are a fitting signature for the beginning of his adapted cinematic reputation.
Carrie White anymore.
For Carrie, it will be a dream come true. For everyone else, it will be a nightmare.
The 1990s, The Shining, 1980, Stand By Me, 1986, The Running Man, 1987. The Shining, 1980.
Here's Johnny!
Though The Shining falls steadily in line among both the greatest films and horror films of all time, this adaptation is probably one of the less narratively reliable. When Jack Torrance accepts a winter caretaker job in the isolated Overlook Hotel with his wife and daughter, strange, sinister influences begin to take a toll on their family. The director Stanley Kubrick, who is famous for his diligence and specificity of vision, this means shooting and reshooting takes along with the occasional psychological torture of his actors, Shelley Duvall, to get the desired product, reaped his own interpretation of the basic story for his film. It demotes the supernatural relevance of the Overlook Hotel and focuses on the neuroses of Jack Nicholson's representation of Jack Torrance, which comes off as dry and sinister even from the beginning. The Shining represented many themes of familial conflict and substance abuse that King struggled with, and he's since denounced the film as feeling unrepresentative of his original work. Still, The Shining undoubtedly stands as a cinematic masterpiece with rich source material to thank for inspiration.
I'm not falling for that one a chance.
Don't worry, there is something on your neck.
Leech.
Leech it! Oh my God!
Stand By Me, 1986. As another one of King's standout non-horror stories, Stand By Me originally appeared as a coming-of-age novella titled The Body, where four boys stumble upon the body of a local missing boy while journeying on a casual boyhood hike. Directed by Rob Reiner and touting young heavyweights like Corey Feldman and River Phoenix, this film explores the nature of young friendship, growing up, and death through the lens of boys to become men. Stand By Me remains as an evocative picture of youth, as many King works do, and has all of that tender charm and radiance of many other favorite 80s classics. The Running Man, 1987. With undeniable cultural relevance as a cult classic in the now saturated dystopian genre, The Running Man depicts a futuristic world, 2017 and 2019, now in the recent past, with a corrupt government-controlled game show.
We didn't want to break up a winning team, Ben, so here they are, ready to go for broke, right by your side. Ladies and gentlemen, Ben's buddies, Harold Weiss and William Laughlin!
The film diverges from the novel in many ways, with the novel oriented around a game where the public chases a contestant for a bounty. The film focuses on a televised cops and robbers type of pursuit. Despite this difference, an 80s action flick with Arnold Schwarzenegger seems like another kind of autorial cinematic achievement for King. Indies. Misery, 1990, The Shawshank Redemption, 1994, The Green Mile, 1999. Misery, 1990. With film director Rob Reiner at the helm, Misery was destined for greatness from the beginning.
I know you've been out twice, Paul. First I couldn't figure out how you did it, but last night...
At this point, Reiner had already created classics such as This Is Spinal Tap and The Princess Bride, and as mentioned before, Stand By Me. As with other King's adaptations, his story allowed the vessel through which incredible artists like Kathy Bates can express their gift and embody a character to the fullest. Annie Wilkes is not one of the greatest horror villains of all time because she is written by King, another one of his hallmarks, but because Bates had the skill to bring her obsession to life. The Shawshank Redemption, 1994. Among the best of the adaptations, The Shawshank Redemption is the crown jewel. Based off of the short novella Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption, this drama film, written and directed by Frank Darabont, is more remembered as a cinematic masterpiece than a King adaptation at all. Which is an accomplishment in and of itself. In a separation from his usual genre, this is a dramatic adventure that takes place in the Shawshank State Prison and tells of mysterious personality Andy Dufresne, played by Tim Robbins, and his bond with Red, played by Morgan Freeman. Well acted, well written, and enjoyable every second, The Shawshank Redemption is one of those movies that literally everyone will enjoy. The Green Mile, 1999. Also written and directed by Frank Darabont, The Green Mile captures a similar dramatic tone to King in this adaptation of his 1996 novel of the same name. Starring Tom Hanks, David Morse, and Michael Clarke Duncan, this heart-wrenching tale where Hanks plays an officer on death row who witnesses strange and unusual occurrences after the arrival of Duncan, who plays an inmate, John Coffey. This film is fantastical, toying with all of the themes of love, death, fear, and mortality that are so ripe for literature and cinema.
John Coffey, you have been condemned to die in the electric chair by a jury of your peers, sentence imposed by a judge in good standing in this state. Questions?
Do you leave the light on after bedtime?
I know violence.
And despite the loss of their 4 Oscar nominations, The Green Mile still remains relevant in the minds of casual movie lovers today. The 2000s. Secret Window, 2004, 1408, 2007, and The Mist, 2007. Secret Window, 2004. This psychological thriller starring Johnny Depp explores a tumultuous stolen story within a story where a recently separated writer, Mort Rainey, is pursued by an ominous character, John Shooter, who claims plagiarism of one of his stories.
Maybe he wants me to what? To get confused. Oh, I'm already confused, Pilgrim. Plenty confused.
As his threat escalates to terroristic proportions, Mort's state of mind spirals into confusion and despair as he struggles with not only his impending divorce, but his identity.
A dozen other details you've chosen to ignore. You know what? You're nuts. I don't need to listen to this shit from you. Are all these things coincidental?
This hidden gem is a personal favorite of mine, with a warmly insane performance from Depp and a compelling twist. 1408, 2007. 1408 is another endeavor into the psyche and supernatural experiences of a writer. This time, the man is John Cusack as a skeptical attraction journalist who shoulders his way into the legendary number 1408 hotel suite in New York City.
Years of searching, he no longer believes.
So you're saying there's no such thing as ghosts?
I'm saying I've never seen one. Nothing would make me happier than to experience a paranormal.
With a supporting role from Samuel L. Jackson, this film explores the idea of a room that's driven numerous guests insane in under the course of an hour. As a deeply psychological portrait of a seemingly well-adjusted man losing his grip on reality, anyone would be terrified by the induced mania of this alleged 1408. Cusack carries this adaptation on his back with a personal, funny, and tormented King character.
If you leave this room, you can never leave this room.
8. This is 8. We have killed your friends.
The Mist, 2007. In another outstanding Frank Darabont picture, who has now proven to be quite adept at visually characterizing the writing of Stephen King, especially that which borders on drama, The Mist is a somber tale of townspeople driven together to a local grocery store by a weather emergency that turns into a fog-shrouded horror film of monstrous proportions. Darabont counters the unappreciated artistic disregard of Kubrick's adaptation of The Shining through editing the ending of the story to be as fatalistic and despairing as possible. All I can say is, prepare yourself. The 2010s and beyond. It, Chapter 1 and 2, 2017 and 2019, Gerald's Game, 2017, and Dr. Sleep, 2019. It, Chapter 1 and 2, 2017 and 2019. It, Chapter 1 and 2 captured the excitement of the reimagining with this pair of star-studded films based off of the lengthy horror classic It. With a brand new Pennywise, portrayed terrifyingly by Bill Skarsgård, and a host of new alarming visions of fear. To float. From the great evil force that pulses beneath the town of Derry, Maine, the new It series is as fun as it is shiny and contemporary.
Holy shit!
While I have mixed feelings about the quality distance between the two films, they are, regardless, a warmly welcomed exercise in committed adaptations of the current generation. Gerald's Game, 2017. Gerald's Game is one of the best fresh modern imaginings of a Stephen King story in ages, having never been done before. Carla Gugino stars as Jessie Burlingame, a somewhat timid wife on retreat with her husband, Gerald, in their isolated vacation home. After a handcuffed sex game turns into a heart attack for Gerald, Jessie finds herself tethered to a bed just a few feet away from her corpse. As the hours wear on and the situation grows more dire, she must peer within herself to find the will to survive her circumstances and the lasting effects of her past. With strong, macabre themes and a standout performance from Gugino, Gerald's Game represents another impressive raw, character-driven psychodrama to remember from the mind of King and the vision of Mike Flanagan. Dr. Sleep, 2019.
As soon as he got here, to the boiler room.
Dr. Sleep is the nearly 40-year sequel to The Shining, detailing the later life of Danny Torrance following his experience at the Overlook Hotel and his continued affinity for the Shine. When a young girl with an astounding shining ability comes into contact with Danny, he must protect her from a mysterious cult vying to feed off of her youthful magical powers. While some might think that Dr. Sleep came too late, it is certainly a worthy contribution to the breadth of work that spans what could now be considered a whole genre. Fans of Stephen King adaptations, so most people probably, can look forward to an almost obscene amount of slated adaptations with a TBA statuses, with some of the most iconic, in my opinion of course, being The Breathing Method, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, and The Long Walk. All of these are dark short stories or novellas that, in the hands of the right screenwriter and director, maybe Frank Darabont, haha, just kidding, no, but really, could result in films just as legendary as the last few dozen. King has had such an intimate and relatable style that it is easy to imagine his stories on the silver screen, and the best part is, we can only dream of what's coming next.